Okay, let's get started. Hey horrifics, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amanda. This is the first time here. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can get notification every single time that I post a video, and I post every single week. As you can see from the title, on today's video I'm going to be giving you my full review with spoilers of The Last Thing Mary Saw. This is a Shudder original that was just released, well, today is Friday, so yesterday on Thursday, January 20. This one is of course available to watch on the streaming service Shudder. In case that you have never heard of it, is a streaming service that it's dedicated to specifically the horror genre. It's $5.99 a month. It's a must if you're a horror fan. This is not sponsored, I wish, but it's not. But it's a really good option if you're a horror fan that wants to watch a little bit of everything, that watch some classics, maybe new things that you wouldn't find on anyone else, just like originals. So, like I said, this is a review with spoilers. If you don't want them, just to see if this is worth watching or not, on the description box down below, there you're going to find my spoiler-free review, both on my website and on my Letterboxd profile, because I like to give you guys the options. I know that not everyone likes the spoilers. Giving that little talk and disclaimer ahead, let's get into the video. So I'm not gonna lie, I have some trouble with the title because probably if you have ever seen Dead Silence, probably you're going to remember about the character Mary Shaw. And when I first read this movie, I was like, the last thing that Mary Shaw? I was like, no, the last thing that Mary saw. Now this one, it's folklore horror and basically follows the winter of 1843, and we have a young woman that is under investigation by following the mysterious death of her family matriarch. Her recollection of events shone new lights on the ageless force behind the tragedy. The film is protagonized by Stephanie Scott as Mary and Isabel Fuhrman as Eleanor. So we have the opening scene. We have Mary that she's blindfolded, but she has blood on the cheeks that of course we can assume they're coming from the eyes, and of course she's blindfolded, but it's implied that she's already blind, but of course we don't know why, but definitely something happened to her eyes because she has blood in it, but she's really calm about it. So of course we can imply from the very beginning that it's not something recent. So she's been interrogated because her matriarch died and also all of her family. So we're starting with her telling the story about how everything happened, because of course we are on the 19th century. The religious beliefs are really strong on this time, so of course everything that happens that it's weird can come from the devil. And of course this causes that everyone that lives around them starts to like worrying and they want to investigate what is happening. Of course, just like The Witch, if you have watched that movie, it's pretty similar, the situation. So Mary starts to tell the story. Basically, she had a relationship. They never specify how deep the relationship is, but she's having one with the housemate of the house, that it's Eleanor, that it's Isabel Fuhrman. Basically, Mary, she doesn't really care about hiding the fact that she's with Eleanor, but like I said, they never specify, but of course they kiss. They have their moment alone, so we can say that they're girlfriends, but like I said, they never like actually say it, but we can assume that they're girlfriends. And Mary, she doesn't really care about like making her family know that she has interest on Eleanor. Of course, on the 19th century, this was one of the biggest sins. And since her family was so into the religion, they're really worried about the fact that the devil could be doing some work into her daughter, and like the woman that it's making her and maybe corrupting her, if you want to say it that way. That's the way that the people saw it. So the parents of Mary, they have a brother. They go to their house and they're like, maybe you can take Eleanor and we can take away the temptation from her house, and Mary's going to like be like a good woman, if we want to say it that way. Like that's their logic. And they're like, well, I don't want that type of woman into my house, talking about Eleanor being a lesbian. So of course the matriarch, she suggests that they do what they call corrections, and of course link to religion. So in the case of Mary and Eleanor, they're forced to kneel on rice and pray for hours. They never specify how many hours they have been praying, but we can assume from the state of them that has been hours, and that hurts. I mean, it's the type of thing that you don't need to experience to know that it's really discomfort and that hurts. I mean, have you ever like step on a Lego? Like imagine that, but on your knees for hours. Like rice can be real small, but definitely hurts. So Eleanor looks way more affected than Mary. Like Mary's trying to be strong, but Eleanor is losing it. Like she is even asked to like continue the prayer, and she's like, I don't know them. Because of course she's a housemaid in these times. Of course, this type of person, they didn't have this type of education. Of course, Mary is a noble woman. She knows the prayers, she knows everything because she was raised that way. But Eleanor, she doesn't. So of course that makes even worse. Now, like I said, Mary, it's not on like the mental state of hiding it. Like the smart move here would have been like, let's just pretend that everything worked. Let's hide and maybe run away or something before you leave. But no, Mary wants to continue doing everything but wants to run away. I mean, she's been smart on one part, but honey, just fake it for a brief moment because you're going to like be separated from the person that you love and she's suffering more than you because she's the housemate. She will suffer more than you. She's been kind of a little bit selfish on that part because she's not really thinking about Eleanor. So we have Mary's brother, he's spying on them. Of course, Mary realizes, and because of him, they're kind of being catched since Eleanor makes this deal with the guard of the house. She's like, I'm going to give you bread if you allow me to stay with Mary at night on the barn and you don't say anything. Of course, they have the moment, they kiss, they are even reading, they're having their time. But since the brother of Mary saw them, he basically speaks. And the matriarch of the house, she basically founds them. But she's having this type of supernatural power and she makes Eleanor to lose her voice. So she's grabbing her by here, but she's like floating and like two dots of blood are coming out and she gets without a voice. Of course, this is getting things even worse. Now, the movie, by the way, it's 1 hour and 20 minutes long and it's a slow burn in every sense of the word. Like, the resolution of this, it doesn't really comes until the last 20 minutes. Now, the thing is that the matriarch dies. Of course, things get really weird and creepy after this. Now, even one of her fingers gets like black and they're trying to like cut it, but fades once again, but then goes and like turns completely into black. And she is on the funeral, and during the funeral we have the introduction of a new character that is kind of a villain, if you want to call him that way. And his name is Rupert, that it's portrayed by Rory Culkin, who probably you will remember by maybe Scream 4. He was Charles, one of the ghost faces. And but that's the best reference I can give you, but probably you have seen him in other movies still. I'm going to be like putting up pictures so you know of who I am talking about. So he's kind of the villain here. He tries to abuse of Eleanor at some point, like he's touching her. Of course, she can talk, so she can say, he doesn't do like anything, but he's trying to. And Eleanor cuts the finger of him. She cuts his finger, and like it's the only way of her to like doing something about it because she can talk, but of course that is going to bring more consequences. And basically, like I said, the resolution of the movie, it's the last 20 minutes. So Eleanor is forced to kneel almost naked, like she has only her corset and like this shorts that they used to use in those times, like under the skirts that was until the knee, if you, and like the socks, and she has her hair all over her, like she doesn't really have much to cover, and she's forced to kneel on the floor on the diner. And Mary, it's been treated as the new maid. So something that the ward gave to them was this type of berry, and they were supposed to give it to the chickens. And they never really specified, but we could say that it's kind of a poisonous berry or something, and it kills the chickens. Because assume from this that they were trying to make it as this was the punishment of God because of trying to do these corrections. That's how I interpreted the situation. And since Mary had some, and like I said, she wanted to live with Eleanor. So the plan was to live with Eleanor and also the brother, because it was her brother at the end, so she didn't want to leave him. Well, it was Eleanor's idea because at some point Mary doesn't even care about the kid. So we have the family that it's eating. We have Mary, she's bringing some cup of tea and she has the berry on her hand. But so after eating, she brings the tea, everyone is drinking, and we have the kid that is like putting a really, really big amount of sugar into the tea. And the father, he kind of gets like a little bit like annoyed, if we could call it, and he like grabs the cup of tea and he switches with his cup and he takes the kid's cup and they drink it. And like a few minutes later, it's really quick, the kid starts to like puking. It's like blood but looks a little bit more like black, like something really sticky, and he starts like puking and dies. And all the family happens except the father. So we, of course, realizes that Mary was going to poison her family, and the brother was the only one that wasn't going to be poisoned. Of course, the father, I didn't really got why he changed the cup. I think I missed a point here, but I didn't really got it. Why? Because it would have been like the opposite way, like I will die for you, but instead he died for me. I didn't really got it there because the father, he was worried about the repercussions of doing this, and he tells the mother, but she's like, oh, what are you talking about? And he was actually worried about this. But of course the father doesn't get to live much, since Roper reappears with a gun, shoots him. He it's like talking to Mary and Eleanor, and he's like doing this, but of course we don't have the finger, and he shoots Eleanor. And you're like, what? I thought for a brief moment that they were going to be happy, but they weren't. And eventually Rupert dies, and the only one that we have alive is Mary. But here's when it comes like the twist, and is that Mary, she's kind of kneel, and we have someone that is coming from behind her. We know that is the matriarch, and she puts like her hands here, and she has a book that belonged to her father, and the book has a story, and the story basically tells what happened between her and Eleanor. A noblewoman and a housemaid, they fall in love. One gets without a voice and the other one gets blind. So it was like it was written what happened on that book. So you could be thinking, so Mary's going blind. Exactly. Her matriarch puts her hands on the eyes, and of course the blood starts coming out. She starts screaming, she gets blinded. And then we jump again to her telling the story of what happened. And basically that kind of it. That's the whole movie. It's pretty simple. The reality, I wouldn't call it predictable, but it's simple. Like it's nothing out of this world. The plot twist is not that you see it coming, but it's like, oh, okay, so that was the reason. It's not like, oh my god, that type of reaction. Like for me, it was an enjoyable movie. Folklore horror has a very particular way of being, like if you understand, like of course it's really easy to spot this type of horror movies, but they are slow burns by nature. They have a really particular way of being, and of course the costumes, the music, everything. Also the way of speaking, that's something that is very particular. But when it comes to this one, like I said, it's very simple. Is I wouldn't compare it to The Witch precisely, because of course they're different stories. But The Witch, it was a little bit more impressive to me, specifically because of the story and the ending. I remember the ending the first time I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. But here, I enjoyed the movie. I think that is a really good movie, but it's not like the biggest thing out there. Still, I would recommend it. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it if you like this type of horror. If you don't enjoy it and you don't like it, you can still watch it, but probably you're not going to like it, or maybe you're going to like pause and go to the ending to see what happens, or maybe you're going to leave it on the middle because, like I said, it's a slow burn. You don't get to a resolution or answers until the last 20 or even 15 minutes of 1 hour and 20 minutes. So it's a lot to watch. But like I said, it's a lot of things that you have to like interpret by yourself or like read between the lines. Definitely, like I said, I missed the part of why the father he changed the cops. Probably I'm gonna watch it again and maybe I will spot the reason. But if you watch it and you know, please let me know. Probably I just missed it and I didn't even knew. Probably I just missed it. It was in front of my eyes and I don't know. Still, I will give this film 3.5 out of 5 or a 7 out of 10, because like I said, it's not excellent, but it's an enjoyable one. Like, it's not boring, so at least that's something, because sometimes slow burns can be boring, but here this one is not. It's actually pretty interesting. The acting, it's okay, nothing like outstanding, but it's actually good. So I think the costumes, I love them. They look gorgeous. And the setting also really fits, and the music. So in that parts they were really okay. And of course, the way speaking really into the time, and like everything was really into the time. So it fits. And well, I think that this is all. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you watched it, you're planning on it. Now maybe you're gonna watch it since I told you about it, although I spoiled you the whole movie. But well, that was, I rarely give you a warning. But well, this is all for the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm going to be seeing you guys on the next one. Bye.